we are looking at some camper vans that were cargo vans at one point. They weren't cargo vans because instead of being cargo vans, the dealership converted this into a RV because people are now buying cargo vans for sleeping in, for now using at their truck stops. So I hope you are liking this because seriously, these cargo vans are amazing, and I think they're pretty good looking too. I think there's two different cargo vans here converted into RVs by Dodge, ProMasters, and Sprinter vans. But Sprinter vans are usually Mercedes. Cargo vans are usually ProMasters usually Mercedes. Cargo vans and other stuff are Dodge Ram. ProMasters. Hopefully these vans are good to use because they look fun. It would be fun to try camping one for a weekend or at least a night to try every experience from them. Like whether it's the shower, the cooking space is not great because I don't like any cooking space in really RVs because RVs don't really have great cooking space. But you do have a lot of sleeping space, more than you do cooking.
Hey there, future RVers. If you're itching to hit the road in a nimble camper van, but you want to compare two powerhouse options from Winnebago, then you've come to the right place. Today, we're pitting the Solis Pocket 36B against the Solis 59PX, both with pop tops, to see which van fits your travel style the best. Well, buckle up. We're about to find the perfect match for your next big adventure. The first thing we're going to talk about is the fantastic platform that the Solis line is built on. So a Ram ProMaster chassis, 3 different versions in the Solis line, is going to be your options for which unit you choose. However, one thing standard is going to be the 280 horsepower, 3.6 liter V6 gasoline engine, standard across every Solis model and very reliable and robust. The thing between the chassis that differ, with the 36A or a 36B Solis Pocket, we have a wheelbase of 136 inches. With a 59P or 59PX Solis, we have a wheelbase of 159 inches. So we have slightly larger length, slightly larger wheelbase, and we have more interior space between the 59P and the 59PX. But we're still big on adventure, even in the 136-inch wheelbase package. Another thing standard across the Solis line is this rear tow bar. It has a 350-pound vertical weight rating and a 3,500-pound tow weight rating. So you could take a couple jet skis or a nice trailer, connect it to a 4-pin connector at the rear of your Solis anywhere you go. Now, something that differs mounted onto the chassis is a generator. So with a Solis Pocket, you can't have a generator. You'd have to move up to the 59PX for a rear-mounted generator behind your rear tires. Another thing standard with the 59PX is that AC mounted on the roof. If you want an AC on your Solis Pocket, you have to option without the pop top. It's also worth mentioning, if you're looking for a nice in-between between the 36B and the 59PX, the 59P is actually built on the 2500 chassis. You can option this with an AC on the roof if you choose to do so, but you cannot get a 59P with a generator underneath. Before we get inside, another thing I want to mention is how the occupant and cargo carrying capacity differs between the models. For the two we're talking about today, the 59PX, we have an occupant and cargo carrying capacity of 1,952 pounds. With the 36B behind me, we have an occupant and cargo carrying capacity of 1,563 pounds. Now, this will vary based on the options with the units, but it's a good idea to kind of get a mindset for around how much cargo we can put into the unit safely. Another thing I want to talk about on the exterior is those dimensions. Now, on the 59PX, we have an overall length of 21 feet and a gross vehicle weight rating of 9,350. Now with the 36B, we have an overall length of 17 feet and 10 inches, and we have a gross vehicle weight rating of 8,550. Now the things that are the same between the two is the overall height of 9 feet 3 inches with the pop top and 9 feet without, as well as the width at about 6 feet 8 inches, 6 feet 9 inches. Another thing worth mentioning between these chassis are the driving and the maneuverability. The reason the ProMaster chassis is so well renowned in the Class B vans is how comfortable it is to drive. And the 36B boasts the tightest wheelbase, the shortest, most maneuverable, most set up for city streets and parking where you might not be able to with a larger Class B van.
You're going to be able to camp in a lot more places with this than you are a RV. Because RVs stand out way too much. This does not stand out near as much. So if you're worried about where you can park in a lot more places. I'm not saying you won't be restricted, but you will be restricted, but maybe not the same ways as you would an RV. Especially if you're trying to do a lot stealthier camping.
Let's start with the coolest option on the Solises, the pop top. Now this is an additional sleeping space for 1 or 2 adults up here, and at 6 feet it's a very comfortable large bed. And having the ability, even with the shorter van, to sleep 4 adults is a pretty big deal. So let me show you down there the other sleeping option. Now for the pop top bed up top, the dimensions are about 52 by 79, which isn't too far off from the 36A's Murphy bed in the rear, which is about 52 by 75. Now for these dinettes that become beds, the dimensions don't really conform to normal sizes, but they are the most versatile, the most multi-use space we have in any Class B van. There's about 7 different positions for this bed, which I'll show you briefly here, and about 5 different positions for the dinette in the 36A. So now we're inside the Solis 59PX here, and it's worth mentioning that instead of having that dinette in the center, these 2 captain's chair seats that you can have passengers in, you can also use as your dining area. So I'm just going to get this out of the way here briefly for myself. Of course, these captain's chairs rotate just like in the pocket like we were showing you. And of course, I can sit 4, we can eat dinner right here, and I have a similar kitchen layout with my fridge openable right here in the doorway. I have a large amount of prep space, and then as we move to the back for sleeping, we have a very large Murphy bed. We have that 75 by 52 inch bed. And with this Murphy bed folded down, it's nice to have an additional down bed in the rear. Now, me at 6 foot, I've got plenty of space facing this direction, and not quite as much the other, of course. But it's a useful bed.
And I think I might be a little taller than 6 foot. So I might not be able to fit in that bed. I don't know if I would fit in that bed or not, or any of those beds, but the back one looks very big and comfortable at the same time. But it also looks like one of those things that fold down for the dining room table. So I hope it's not like the dining room table bed.
And of course, with this up out of the way, I still have a ton of usable space. You could bring larger gear like bikes inside the unit if you had.
I don't know if I'd so much bring bikes in the unit because to get them in and out would be tight. I'd probably have to put a bike rack on the back if I could, or put something on the roof maybe. But I would not put bikes inside unless it was storming, probably, because unless I was either moving or it was storming or anything, like it would have to be very bad weather for me to put the bikes inside. And probably with that, I probably wouldn't even have a bicycle with me.
Too, and you have tons of storage on both sides. We've got a deep storage into the wheel well. We've got a trunk storage here that I can go into. I could use some wet stuff in here as well if I wanted to keep it out of the inside of the unit. And I've got net storage on this side. It's also worth mentioning I could take a camp chair inside and I could use this space in the rear as the office. And I could either face the exterior with the rear doors open with the screen down and really enjoy my campsite, or I could sit here and face the front of my unit and keep an eye on things in my campsite. So starting with the 36B again, we're going to talk about the bathroom and the kitchenette differences. So in the rear bath of the 36B, you actually also have access to your propane tank back here. And I like mentioning this because it's way more manageable than having that mounted tank underneath that you have to go to a specific fill station for, because you could just take this tank and exchange it at the nearest center that'll exchange it for you, and then you're good to go right again. Another thing worth mentioning is there's a fixed cassette toilet in the 59P and PX. With the 36B, I can actually remove this guy.
Talking about the bathroom here. I like the bathroom because it's not in a small space. You have tons of options, like you could have an outdoor shower, indoor shower, or you could take out your toilet. You have a lot more room, especially as a bigger person. For someone like me, I would be able to at least spin around, like do all the stuff I have to do in the shower. Like, I know I probably wouldn't be able to turn to the way, whatever way is not the tightest is the way I'd be able to turn. I may not be able to do a full 360 though in the shower there.
Completely from the rear and take advantage of the full shower pan in the rear, as well as I can take my exterior shower here and make the rear into my exterior shower booth using a curtain and the two rods that the Solis feature in the rear. Now, the space I have in the 36B might be slightly smaller than the 59PX, but it's still very, very usable. And having a bathroom in something on the shortest wheelbase is fantastic. Now, moving in even further to the unit, you can see how well they took advantage of the space for the kitchenette. I actually have a significant amount of prep space on the right of my little basin sink. I have really nice fixtures despite the size of the unit, and I still have the Eco Hot system to circulate my water through the unit to keep all my lines ready for hot water on demand if I'm going to take a long shower out the back. Now let's move on to the 59PX Solis and check out the kitchenette and the bathroom in there. Another thing to check out really quickly is this outside dining space that we get on the 36B Pocket. Now with the 59PX, it's worth mentioning we have the same NovaCool DC fridge right here, accessible from the outside. So if I'm just grabbing a couple things while I'm cooking outside, I can do that. And then if we come inside, I still have that dual burner LP stovetop. I've got a little bit of prep space, and I have another basin sink with a nice fixture here. But the big difference here is the wet bath. So coming inside our wet bath here, we have, of course, a curtain rod, so if we're going to be drying things or we're going to hang up a towel, a wetsuit, we have this to dry items as well. It has ducted heat into our wet bath, so if we're trying to keep this a nice temperature when we're taking showers in the morning, we do have that Truma heat on board. And of course we have a shower head for in here, and we have a separate exterior shower out the back and the ability to make that outside shower room as well. And I'll show you that in a moment. But the last thing I want to mention is we have a swiveling cassette toilet that's fixed. It'll stay in this position in this room, and it is, just like the other, flushable off your fresh tank. So moving to the rear, let's take a quick trip outside. It's worth mentioning, right here we have the ability to connect these two bars and put our shower curtain across, and right here we have the hookup for our exterior shower and a spray hose as well. So now let's talk about the appliances they chose for the Solises and the things that make it such a great platform and such a great unit and versatile. So the first thing I want to talk about is across all the Solises we have two Group 31 AGM batteries underneath, and that makes them a great candidate for solar. So with these pop tops we have 220 watts of solar on the roof. This unit has the Xantrax solar controller, and if we even optioned it without the pop top, we'd actually have 170 watts of solar. So we still have plenty of solar wattage on the roof to bring in charge voltage for those two Group 31 batteries. And the other thing I want to mention is both this 59PX and the 36B next to us have a Truma Combi hot water heater as well as forced air furnace. So having those two things in one is fantastic because it makes better use of the space, as well as the Truma Combi is one of the most efficient and quietest water heaters you can have on board in a Class B van. Another thing worth mentioning is, okay, we can't have a generator on our 36B, but we don't need one if you do the optional EcoFlow upgrade to your 36B. We can monitor how much DC voltage we have coming in from solar or from the alternator charging as we're driving, and we're able to update this system as long as we're within a Wi-Fi connection, and we can even have EcoFlow support come in as long as we're still by a Wi-Fi connection.
I think it's kind of crazy that you can update these machines if you're near a Wi-Fi connection, because Wi-Fi a lot of times does not reach to the vehicles, I don't think. Very well, not always, but at least you can update it. You do have the option. It's just going to be very tricky to update.
We can see wattage from the alternator, we can check history of usage and remaining time on our current usage. So with my lights on, with my fridge going, I can see how many days before I need to plug in or start up the engine and get it up to some higher RPMs to charge up our battery bank here. It's a fantastic option, and it's the best use of the space for a power bank.
That's actually very good. That's actually very good. I really like these vans. That's why I'm doing this video, but I did not know that they had all these features.
So now let's talk about which unit is right for you and what kind of RVer these units are built for. Now with the 36B built on the 1500 chassis, we have a shorter, more nimble, more maneuverable chassis. And it also can park in a wider range of places. So people with HOA restrictions or limited parking, it's a fantastic option for how much you can do with such a small unit. Now with the 59PX, the big difference here is we have that generator on board. So as long as we have fuel in the tank, we have the ability to do an extended stay and the ability to sleep more comfortably, as well as slightly more storage. So it really falls down into, do you have the space? Are you comfortable driving the van? Because one thing to keep in mind is these are very comfortable vans to drive. If you're slightly more nervous about maneuverability and the ability to corner well, that shorter wheelbase is pretty well built for you. And I would of course encourage, come down, drive the unit, really get a feel for it, and using the safety features on board. Okay. And there you have it. Two fantastic Winnebago Solis models for every type of traveler. Whether you crave the ultra compact freedom of the pocket or the extra space and power of the 59PX, there's a Solis that can make your road trip dreams a reality. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your questions or comments. And until next time, happy camping and safe travels.
Thank you. That is a very unique van and motorhome. This would be very unique, and it's very cool to use this vehicle because it's cool to camp in a van that can fit 4 people, if not more adults than that even. If it can fit 4 people and have a very small dining space, once in a while maybe a whole family could go, but mostly it's just going to be you and your significant other. I really like these vans. These vans are very unique and they're very good if you're trying to be stealthy kind of more. Yeah, so I hope you liked this video. It took a little bit to make. It didn't take super long, but it took a bit. It took a couple nights.